All right, Shabbat Shalom. This is the brother Ra'aya coming in the spirit and the power of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai. But before I get started, as always, I'm going to give all praises, glory, and infinite honors to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai Bahashem Rakah HaKodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone who rule and teach well, and whom I learned this truth from. And peace and salutations to you sincere Akim out there, pushing this word in truth and sincerity to the four corners of the globe. May you brothers endure until the end. Shabbat Shalom. And I'm going to start this Shabbat lesson off with Matthew chapter 24, verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And of course, we know that by prophesying the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai out there on the highways and byways, as well as putting up these video epistles, we're making our body a living sacrifice. We're making we're a testimony against the ways of this world and this rulership, and we preach about its downfall. And hey, we are bringing about its downfall by preaching the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, as it says down in verse 14, and this gospel of the kingdom shall be preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, which it has, mainly through GMS, or Great Millstone, because there are GMS camps, of course, in Babylon the Great, the United States of America, as well as in Canada, Central and South America, Europe, Africa, the Philippines, Japan, etc., etc. And the main way that the gospel that GMS has been preaching, which is the gospel of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, has been through this unicorn, or this internet, which has brought it from one end of the earth unto the other, waking up the hopeful elect of the nation of Israel, telling the wicked of our people your judgment for your rebellion towards our power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, and telling you heathen nations what your judgment is for your wickedness as well, and also for afflicting the children of Israel, who are known as the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans today. And at the head of that list of these heathens that have afflicted the children of Israel, and who's going to receive the worst judgment for it, are going to be you Edomites, the so-called white people. Hey, this gospel of the kingdom has been preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, and as it says, and then shall the end come, like I just said, by us preaching the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai, us giving this testimony against this world. The powers of the words of Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai is bringing about the downfall of this society, and the current rulers of the planet right now know this, who are Edomites, and more specifically their elites, the Rothschilds, Rockefellers, the DuPonts, the Gettys, the Merovingians, you name it. They can see that their rulership's coming to an end, and they understand the scriptures and know that that's the case when the children of Israel start waking back up and calling on their power, and also when the prophets of the Lord are out on the highways and byways preaching. And they also know that they're the biblical Edomites, and what the fate of the Edomites are after they're taken out of power. 1,000 years of hardcore bondage and slavery before their permanent culling from this planet by fire. So, with all that being said, that's what's going to lead into, again, Matthew chapter 24, verse 10, verse 9. Then shall they deliver you up to be afflicted, and shall kill you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. These elites are about to pull out all the stops. That devil is about to come down in great wrath, because he knoweth that he hath but a short time, in Revelation 12, verse 12, to demonize this word by demonizing the men of the Lord, and showing us as so-called domestic terrorists, extremists, black identity extremists, Muslims, as they like to try to link us to that movement, etc., etc. And we've seen instances happening here and there over the past couple of years with so-called people, so-called Negroes, part of the Israelite movement, are saying that they read Israelite, they prescribe to the Israelite philosophy, committing acts of violence out here. You had that thing in New Jersey at that market, I believe back in 2019, and then around December this year, you had that guy so-called drive his car into a bunch of white people at a Christmas parade. And what did he say? Oh, I have beliefs in the Israelite ideas, and I believe in things that Hitler said, all kind of stuff like that. And don't be surprised, Akim, when you start seeing more of these events intensify as we get closer and closer to the end of this Edomite society. He's about to fight tooth and nail to keep his rulership in position. And his main roadblock in keeping his rulership in place is the men of the Lord out on the highways and byways preaching this word, as well as putting up these video epistles, waking up the elect of the nation of Israel. Again, when this gospel of the kingdom is preached in all the world for a witness unto all nations, then shall the end come. And I opened up the video with these verses to preface an article from newspunch.com titled DHS Chief, or the Department of Homeland Security Chief, People Who Believe in Conspiracies Are America's #1 Enemy. And I'll show an image of it right there. And if you're rolling in the spirit, you would know exactly what time it is. As it says in 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11, lest Satan should get an advantage of us. Speaking of the physical counterpart of the spiritual demon Satan, these Edomites, lest he should get an advantage of us, which if the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai is dealing with you, he won't. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, we are not ignorant of his devices. We know that the media, the mainstream media, and his ability to manipulate the news and people's opinions out here is one of his devices that he's going to use to demonize the words of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and his prophets by making us look like, again, so-called domestic terrorists, black identity extremists, and conspiracy theorists who are leading a lot of people astray by putting conspiracies on the internet, saying, oh, it's how can you promote such hatred towards so-called white people? What makes you think you can say so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the children of Israel? Those people over in the Holy Land are the children of Israel. Hey, how can you say God hates everybody and he's only for the Israelites, or people are going to go into slavery? Look at all this hatred you're promoting. And then bring up examples like I brought up at the beginning of the video with different instances of so-called Negroes committing violence and saying that they believe in Hebrew Israelite talking points. They can say, look at what these we got to be speaking out codes because of YouTube's algorithms. Look at what these ideas online have been causing people to have been leading to people to commit violence out in the streets. We need to deal with these guys. They're public enemy #1. We need to take them off the streets and throw them into jail so they can stop committing acts of violence. But as it said back in Matthew chapter 24, and they shall deliver you up to be afflicted, and they shall kill some of you. And we already know that some of us will be martyrs for a testimony of this truth, as it said in Revelation chapter 20. And I'll just read it. Revelation chapter 20, verse 4. And I saw thrones, and they sat upon them, and judgment was given unto them. Speaking of the 144,000 of the elect of the nation of Israel. And I saw the souls of them that were beheaded for the witness of Yahweh Shai and for the word of the Most High, and making our bodies a living sacrifice out there, spreading the testimony of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai out here, condemning this Edomite in his system and saying it's going to go down, and saying that our kingdom is going to come up next. And then again, Matthew 24, verse 14, us preaching these words are bringing about the downfall of this kingdom. And which had not worshipped the beast, neither his image. I believe in Hebrews, as it says, those 7,000 men, which 7,000 just means completion. Those 7,000 men that did not bend the knee to Baal, the elect of the nation of Israel, did not give in to Esau, Edom's beast system, which we're living in the last leg of the fourth beast in Daniel chapter 2. Those iron toes mixed with miry clay, the reincarnated Roman Empire, the NATO-EU alliance that the U.S. is a part of, or the image all the different aspects of this system, its political, financial, and military aspects. And we didn't give in to the feminist agenda. We didn't believe in democracy. We didn't condone the alphabet group beginning with LG, all that. We were completely against everything that this Edomite pushed and preached against it. Neither had received his mark in their foreheads or in their hands. They received the mark in Revelation chapter 13, verses 16 to 18, which is that RFID/NFC, MICROCHIPIMPLANT. And they lived and reigned with Hamashiach 1,000 years. And that's how we're able to go out onto the highways and byways, preach this word. Well, shit. First and foremost, it's through the Spirit of the Most High in us to give us the faith and the strength to do these things. But hey, to know that at the end of the tunnel, there is that light, the kingdom of heaven, being the first fruits, having dominion, and knowing that a better way of life is coming after the downfall of this kingdom, and it must come. And this kingdom must have its downfall before the kingdom of heaven comes. That's what gives us the strength to be able to go out there and boldly proclaim the names of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and preach his word, and preach against this Edomite, the wicked of our people, and this society as a whole. But then again, we know throughout the scriptures that there's going to be a chastisement, a persecution that comes with it. Again, some of you shall be afflicted and delivered up, and they shall kill some of you, and ye shall be hated of all nations for my name's sake. And even though we haven't gotten to the point to where, hey, brothers, well, to some extent it has, during that thing that happened at the Washington Monument, or the Abraham Lincoln Monument, or whatever, with HOY a couple of years ago, with those Edomite kids, and you had the Native American beating a drum, and brothers did a lot of videos showing that there was more to that situation that meted the eye. You started having like some mainstream news networks like Fox News talk about the Hebrew Israelites, though they called them the Black Hebrew Israelites, and showed some footage of some chopped up footage of brothers, like, pushing an Edomite woman down, even though when you watch the full clip, that Edomite woman got in those brothers' faces and was touching on them a little bit. We saw a little bit of that demonization campaign right there. But when this demonization campaign truly hits and this devil comes down in wrath, you're going to see brothers' faces on the news, on social media, all that, and them just saying the worst things about us. Because, brother, because best believe that if YouTube is constantly striking brothers' pages and taking down their videos, and we have to speak in codes on some things, that they're cataloging and watching every one of our videos, and they're making a compilation clip out there, some of the most heated things brothers have said on the highways and byways. Because when the spirit gets to rolling, hey, we get really raw sometimes. So when this demonization campaign comes, they're really just going to make us look like the worst things going. And on a small level, and you brothers see it when you go out, whatever days you go out for camp, hey, our people, the wicked of our people hate us. These Edomites hate us. And that's just on a low level with average Joes walking up and talking shit. Imagine how much more when, again, they take that compilation clip or whatever they do, or however means they go about it, and put us on the news all across the planet and show just some of the so-called worst things we said. People are especially going to hate us. And we live in this society to where people don't want to get the full information on things, and they're highly emotional. So they're going to hear different things that we condemn about their lifestyles, and they're automatically going to be like, oh, I don't care about anything else they say. Those people are piracy theorists. They are domestic terrorists. They are identity extremists. You should take them off the streets. You should throw them in jail. Look at all the bad they're causing by what they're saying. So these are the things we need to keep in mind, brothers. That's the bitterness of the scriptures that goes along with the honey. The honey, when we first eat this roll and find out that we're Israelites and the Most High's chosen people, and that the kingdom of heaven's going to come, and that these heathens are going to be under our feet, and we're going to be in rulership for eternity. But the bitterness is that point getting to the kingdom of heaven, having to go through our day-to-day trials, dealing with people in our life, your family, your woman, your children, having demons on them, the job, having demons afflict you, physical ailments, health ailments, mental ailments, and then ultimately this persecution campaign we know that's coming, where you should expect your so-called loved ones in the world and friends to turn against you, and even turn you in some instances when they put a reward on your head, or say during the times of Jacob's trouble, when these famines, which we know are coming, hit, or any of these other tribulations that take place out here. They could put our faces out there and say, look, if you've seen this person or know any information about them, turn them in, and there will be a reward, a monetary reward, food, or anything like that. These are the things that we should be expecting to take place, especially now as we see that all these end time signs of Jacob's trouble, the famines, the pestilences, the wars, and the rumors of wars are really starting to kick up and really starting to manifest themselves right before our very eyes. But before I get into this article, I'm going to read Revelation chapter 2, verse 10. For fear none of these things which thou shalt suffer, the persecution, your loved ones turning against you, your friends turning against you, anything like that. Esau coming down with that hammer, brothers getting arrested, as it's about to say, brothers getting cast into prison, a concentration camp, a detention center. Behold, the devil, that deceiver, Esau, Edom, shall cast some of you into prison, that ye may be tried. Hey, us giving our testimony for Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, standing boldly for Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, not giving into this man and his system. And ye shall have tribulation 10 days, and that 10 days just means a complete amount of tribulation for whatever your lot is. If you're one of these brothers that does get cast into prison, be thou faithful unto death, because again, some of us will be put to death for testimony to Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, and I will give thee a crown of life. So no matter what comes our way during these times of persecution, hey, just endure it manfully like a good soldier of Yahweh Shai Hamashayak, and at the end, you'll receive that crown of life. But now let's get into this article. Again, on newspunch.com, DHF, or Department of Homeland Security Chief, people who believe in sea piracy theories are America's #1 enemy. Biden's DHS chief, Alejandro Mayorkas, on Sunday declared that people who believe in sea piracy theories are America's #1 enemy. They simply believing on something you've heard on the internet or something you may have heard on the highways and byways makes you America's #1 threat, makes you an enemy of the state. On the anniversary of the September 11th attacks, Mayorkas told MSNBC that the threat landscape has evolved in the 21 years since 9/11, and the new threat the U.S. faces is not foreign terrorists, but Americans radicalized by an ideology of hate, anti-government sentiment, and false narratives propagated on online platforms. Let's read that again. In the 21 years since 9/11, and the new threat the U.S. faces is not foreign terrorists, but Americans radicalized by ideologies of hate. And when people come against this word, what's the main things they say? Oh, y'all are racists, y'all are sexists, y'all are against the alphabet group beginning with LG. you hate everything. You're hate mongers. That's an ideology of hate, to say that the person called God hates so-called white people, that he looks down at these heathens as nothing, and that they're going into slavery. How can you say such hateful things to divide the people? We should be coming together to love each other. And then I believe it was the brothers in California, I can't remember which camp specifically, about 10 years ago, there was a compilation video that came out called America's, the most hateful group in America, an ideology of hate, where they took some of the most heated things the brothers said and made a whole video showing it, saying, look, this is America's, the how was it called, the most hateful group in America. Look at what they're spreading: division, hate, all that anti-government sentiment, which this truth is a anti-Edomite government sentiment. We're literally preaching the downfall and preaching for the downfall of the United States of America and this system as a whole. We say day in and day out that we wanted to go down since yesterday and be completely destroyed. Hey, Abad Babal means the destruction to Babylon. Babylon, of course, being the biblical name for the United States of America. And false narratives propagated on online platforms, conspiracy theories. With your likes of Vocab Malone or any of these other weirdos out here, they say that it's a false narrative that we say the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans are the children of Israel, that so-called white people are the Edomites, that God hates everybody, and that the heathens are going into slavery. So you can see how they could easily fit the truth and the men of the Lord into all these different categories and say that we've been radicalized out here to be domestic terrorists, black identity extremists. I mean, they already have the Hebrew Israelites on the SPLC, or the Southern Poverty Law Center's hate group list. Back when 9/11 occurred, and also during 9/11, our apostles and elders were arrested for a suspicion that they were involved in the 9/11 terrorist attacks, which was just complete bullshit. They ended up getting out of jail, but the fact that they went to jail shows that they've been keeping their eyes on us even way back then, and that was before the YouTube era. So how much more now over these last 14 years we've been on YouTube, constantly putting these videos out there. And I believe also when that whole instance occurred, our apostles even got a little bit of airtime in the news where they would preach. There was like a mosque up the street, and some people that lived in that neighborhood or around the area where the apostles preached knew damn well that they had nothing to do with Muslims, but they interviewed them and said, oh yeah, they were preaching that Muslim ideology, because there just so happened to be a mosque up the street. And when they showed our apostles, they also showed the image of that mosque too. We know that they're trying to link us to Islam and radical Al-Qaeda, all that bullshit. Shit, look at Vocab Malone. He's constantly bringing up the Israelites and the Nation of Islam. Back when 9/11 occurred, in those years, we were very focused on the foreign terrorist, the individual who sought to do severe harm to enter the United States and do us harm, Mayorkas continued, speaking at the site of the World Trade Center. But now, Mayorkas said officials are becoming more and more concerned about U.S. residents radicalized by foreign terrorist ideologies. We are seeing an emerging threat, of course, over the last several years of the domestic, violent extremist, Mayorkas said, the individual here in the United States radicalized to violence. That incident in New Jersey, or that incident during Christmas, by a foreign terrorist ideology, but also an ideology of hate, anti-government sentiment, false narratives propagated on online platforms, even personal grievances. And we do have personal grievances against these Edomites. Look at what they did to look at what they've been doing to our people over the last 500 years, and even before that, during the times of the Romans and the Greeks. We do have personal grievances toward these Edomites, and we have no problems going out onto the highways and byways, as well as putting up these video epistles, airing our grievances and saying, look, there will be a recompense for it. Not saying us, but thus saith the Most High. Mayorkas said last year that so-called white extremists are the greatest threat to America, and put out terror alerts painting opponents of C-19 lockdowns and people who don't trust the Biden regime as potential domestic terrorists. And that's how they're going to go about it, by going after these Edomite extremists, these neo-Nazis, the KKK, white identity extremists, all that, because everybody is more or less okay with that. That's an easy issue for people to agree on. Look, of course we don't agree with neo-Nazis or white supremacists or anything like that. They take their information off the internet and throw them into jail. It's no skin off of our back. But at the same time, they go after them first, and that leads to a umbrella over everybody else. Well, these white identity extremists are bad, but what about these black identity extremists? These black Hebrew Israelites? Look at they've committed some acts of violence as well. So let's go after them. Let's take their information offline and let's throw them in jail as well. It's a slippery slope. And this devil doesn't care about his own people. He's willing to throw his own people under the bus just to get at the Israelites. That's pretty much it with this article. But again, the Department of Homeland Security chief says people who believe in conspiracy theories are America's #1 enemy. We can clearly see that all the pieces are being put into place to demonize this word and demonize the men of the Lord and come against us. Bring that persecution campaign, throw some of us into jail, and even put some of us to death. But this is Isaiah chapter 29. I'm going to start at verse 18. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The elect of the nation of Israel, getting the breath of life breathed back into them and coming back to the identity of them being Israelites and knowing the names of their power, Yahweh, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called God, in the name of his son, Yahushai, whom the world ignorantly refers to as so-called Jesus. The elect taking themselves out of the ways of this world and cleaving back unto their power, Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. And then the prophets of the Lord going out onto the highways and byways, preaching this word, condemning this society, preaching this gospel from one end of the earth unto the other, bringing about the end of it. The meek also shall increase their joy in Yahweh, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, or to an end, Esau Edom, his system being brought down right before our very eyes, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. These scoffers, they're about to be cut off soon as well. And everybody that was a demon and came against this truth or just lived a wicked lifestyle is about to be judged by Yahweh Bahashem Yahushai. Verse 21, that make a man an offender for a word. Oh, that ideology you preach is an ideology of hate. It's an anti-government ideology. It's a false narrative online. It's a conspiracy theory, manipulating people and brainwashing them to commit acts of violence. We need to take you off the street corners and throw you into jail, or take your content offline off these social media platforms. And another thing, around that time that shooting happened in that New Jersey market, over in California, they had another instance of anti-sim, because we have to speak in code, anti-1948er hate speech at another market where somebody posted up a sign with the name Yahushai on it, which again is the name of the Son of the Most High, and they said that that was anti-sim rhetoric, making even the true names of the Most High and His Son an offense out here, something that needs to be taken out. That make a man an offender for a word, and lay a snare for him that reproveth in the gate. Hey, labeling us as domestic terrorists, black identity extremists, or conspiracy theorists that need to be taken out of the way because we're so-called America's #1 enemy, and turn aside the just for a thing of naught. Hey, trying to take away the gospel and take away Israel from its identity again, to keep this thing of naught to keep going, this society, this wicked society under Esau, Edom. But we know, as it says in Isaiah 55 verse 11, that so shall my word be that goeth forth out of my mouth. It shall not return unto me void, but it shall accomplish that which I please, and it shall prosper in the thing whereto I sent it. Everything that's been stated in the scriptures to take place will take place. These Edomites are going down. The nation of Israel, beginning with the elect, is rising up, and the kingdom of heaven will be established, where these heathen nations are going to be our slaves for the first 1,000 years, and then under our subjection for eternity. All these things will come to pass, and nothing will stop them from coming to pass. This demonization campaign, the persecution, or the fame of the word, where you can't find the men of the Lord on the highways and byways, or our video epistles online. But best believe that the powers that be are going to do their best to keep this word from going out, and to get their hands on the men of the Lord, and to try to put some of us to death, which they will succeed and put some of us to death. That persecution campaign. But we've got the victory at the end of the day. So that, again, gives us this strength to keep pushing forward, to know that, yes, this persecution is coming, but if we endure until the end, hey, we're going to receive that crown of life. But now I'm going to go to Acts chapter 6. I'm going to start at verse 8. And this is speaking about when the Israelites back then in Jerusalem, before 70 AD, when we knew we were Israelites, and the great scattering happened, and the great falling away happened, they came against Stephen, who was preaching in the name of Yahushai, because what he was saying was cutting those Sadducees and Pharisees and wicked Israelites. So they got people to come and bear a false testimony against him, to say, look, you're speaking against the truth, and you need to be taken out of the way for it. And I'm bringing this account out just to show that that they're going to do the same things to us again, and that there's accounts of them bringing false witnesses against us to discredit what we say, and ultimately try to put us to death. As it says in Romans chapter 15, everything written aforetime was written for our learning. And we know that these Edomites are going to come with their persecution campaign against us. But to you sincere brothers out there, and I'm mainly speaking to GMS and the brothers that come in the spirit of GMS, don't be surprised when Esau Edom turns this heat up, that these other Israelite groups that took that 501c3 link up with Esau to come against us and say, look, we always knew that GMS wasn't right. They talk about grape, they're bums. They preach, what they preach is different from what we preach. So hey, we're going to do everything we can to help you bring them down. And I'm not saying him specifically, but I'm just giving an account. When that New Jersey market shooting incident happened, you had General Yohana of the ISUPK go on to a little interview with the Amalekite or 1948 rabbi, and he asked him, do you hate white people? And he said, I don't hate white people. God hates white people. That was a very duplicitous thing to say. He was just trying to cover his ass and stay within the confines of his 501c3. Because what did King David say? I hate those that hate you, and is not the elect the house of David? So everything the Most High hates, we hate it as well. And what sense does that make for you to follow a power and give your whole life over to a power, but some things that you don't agree with, you don't agree with your power. That's being a hypocrite. But this is Acts chapter 6 verse 8. And Stephen, full of power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. And we know that miracles are coming again. Some brothers will get spiritual powers. And I can't remember which brother it was that said it, but he did make a very interesting point in a video he was doing where he said he could see in the spirit that this persecution and demonization campaign towards the Hebrew Israelites could really start coming when brothers start committing acts of miracles or spiritual powers, or caught on the highways and byways, or on the cameras, and they're shown on YouTube videos. Esau's like, look, no, this is too much. Now they're using spiritual powers and committing miracles. We got to cut this thing off. And Stephen, full of faith and power, did great wonders and miracles among the people. Then there arose certain of the synagogue, which is called the synagogue of the Libertines and the Cyrenians and the Alexandrians, and of them of Cilicia and Asia, disputing with Stephen. And they were not able to resist the wisdom and the spirit by which he spake. And we see that now. Anybody that comes up against the men of the Lord on the highways and byways have never been able to defeat the doctrine, because we're in the spirit of Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shai. They get constantly cut by it, and the things that they believe in are shown to be false, that it doesn't match up the scriptures and just doesn't stand up at all. A couple of months ago, you had a bunch of these Israelite pastors in the Christian church get together on a Zoom call